Hi, it's Jamie from Evolution5. One of the things we don't cover a lot on our videos is the housing sector. So today we thought we'd talk about the housing sector as part of the overall construction industry, and more so following the recent government budget and announcements under their affordable homes programme. The government has recently announced in the budget a social housing package that will deliver 5,000 new affordable homes, and will add £500 million to the affordable housing programme that's already in place. That brings a total investment to over £5 billion and supports the delivery of 33,000 new homes through £128 million of housing projects across the country. Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, further added by stating, "This is a significant step in our plan to get Britain building again by backing the sector so they can help us deliver a social and affordable housing boom," interesting word, supporting millions of people up and down the country into a safe, affordable and decent home they can be proud of. So quite an interesting statement made by both Rachel Reeves and Angela Rayner. What should be further noted is whilst the government are using the term building Britain again, as I mentioned, it should be noted that the £500 million investment is a top up from the existing affordable housing programme. So this isn't something that's new. So Labour is set to lay out its housing strategy. That's due for spring forthcoming. In its manifesto, it committed to delivering the biggest increase in social and affordable house building in a generation, and to support councils and housing associations build their capacity and make greater contribution to housing supply, specifically affordable housing. The £128 million I referred to just a minute ago will support the delivery of new housing projects, including 28,000 new builds, which are currently blocked apparently by river pollution, 3,000 energy efficient homes and 2,000 new homes in North Liverpool. So that's the quantum of the 128 million. So let's talk about how realistic is the government's target to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years. And let's just sort of take stock. We haven't actually seen their full strategy for this at the moment. But putting this in perspective, the government planned to build 300,000 homes per year, which by no coincidence was the same target set by the previous government in 2019 in their manifesto. It's not clear what the 1.5 million homes comprise of, so it's fair to assume at this stage, based on previous net additional dwellings, that it will comprise of new builds, conversions, change of use, and also demolition. So as I said, it's a net additional dwellings that we're looking at. So where are we currently? So taking some statistics here, which is why I keep looking at the screen. According to the BCIS, using the ONS data, second quarter 24, we were on average 31,660 dwelling starts in the UK, which was up 6.4% from the previous quarter, and down, interestingly, 60.3% from the previous year, which would have been second quarter 23. Total dwelling starts in the UK on average fluctuated between 30,000 and 45,000 from the second quarter in 2014 right the way through to the fourth quarter in 2022, with an abnormal spike that we saw in the second quarter 23, which delivered over 70,000 new homes in one quarter, which shows what can be done, but not what on average is being delivered. Housing associations have averaged 5,000 per quarter, so that's new starts per quarter, for the past 10 years, and they also spiked in the second quarter 23 with up to approximately 18,000 new starts. So that's quite interesting numbers there. So what does all this mean? Taking into consideration these averages, say for argument's sake, 37,500 per quarter new starts. That means the government need to double its output immediately and consistently over the next 5 years. In respect to social housing, the average of 20,000 new dwellings needs to increase by 65% to meet its target of 33,000 new dwellings. So this clearly appears, does it clearly appear? It seems to be unrealistic, although we haven't seen the government's strategy. It would somewhat lack credibility based on what previously has been done. So this go back to building Britain again and a boom. That certainly needs to happen. That seems to be the intention of the government. But for the last 10 years, it wouldn't suggest that these statistics are realistic. And we also got to appreciate there's external influences. So this is not all totally in the government's control, or certainly not the way the housing sector's structured at the moment. So let's look at some of the reasons the previous government failed in meeting their targets of 300,000 new homes per year, and the challenges one would think that the current government will face based on history. So over the past 10 years, the previous government produced an average of 178,000 net additional dwellings. So you can see that's a far cry, or very short, from the target of 300,000 by quite some way. I didn't work out a percentage, but you can see it's quite some way. Interestingly, and I found this statistic very interesting, the last time we got to 300,000 homes was in the 1970s, where between 1969 and 1973, so over those 4 years, we built 290,000 homes per year on average. The takeaway from the 1970s is that the private house builders accounted for 55% of all new homes, where the local authorities, just got lost there, built 40%. So it's quite a high percentage, and housing associations made up for the remaining 5%. Fast forward to current present day, and we are looking at house builders accounting for 81% of the housing stock, or the new houses built. Local authorities only 1%, and housing associations 18%. So you can see that's a massive transformation or a massive switch in the volume of private house builders from the 1970s to present day. Registered social housing landlords have never really replaced local authority output in terms of net additional dwellings. So as we can see, social housing providers have never really replaced the output from the previous local authorities from the 1970s. This means, as you can see, with private house builders accounting for 81% of net additional dwellings, there's a lot of emphasis on private house builders. So let's just talk a little bit about the private house builders. So house builders obviously will only start a development if they believe they can sell houses at a price that returns a development profit. Makes sense. They will only build out development if there's an actual demand at a price they can make a profit. Again, makes sense. House prices, now this is an interesting one. House builders' share prices go up if they have undeveloped land, and they go down if they have unsold houses. Doesn't seem to make that logical sense, but this is how the market operates. Just going back to a statement by the BCIS, just looking through my notes here, they know that house builders won't build them all, and the public sector can't build enough. So it's an interesting statement to summarise what I was just saying there. Private house builders will also contribute and build affordable homes, but again, they will require a contribution to their development profits. Private house builders rely on government initiatives such as Help to Buy to stimulate demand. So all of this kind of makes sense, but we can see we're very much in the hands of the private house builders in order to meet these numbers that the government are stating that we're going to build. A well-known but not well-documented fact that has contributed to the fall in the overall output of new homes is a fall in the number of small house builders, house developers, housing contractors. According to the Federation of Master Builders, 40 years ago, the contribution of SMEs into additional new dwellings was 40%. Fast forward to today, that number is now down to 12%. So there's a massive change in SMEs contributing to the overall net additional dwelling. So it's quite an interesting figure. The last thing, and again a very obvious thing, is viability. We all know over the last few years, obviously COVID, the increase in obviously the costs, that viability is put at risk. So obviously the cost of building dwellings has risen faster than the sales price over the last 2 to 3 years, and this in turn has also affected the number of dwellings that housing associations can build on their budget and targets. So what does all this mean, and what can be done? So we're going to only touch on this very lightly, because at this point I'm going to ask for anybody who's an expert in house building, from a house developing background or a housing contracting background, to join me on the next podcast, where we can talk with the experts on actually what they believe can be done to hit these numbers, and for for Britain to be building again, and for us to hit this boom. So I'm not going to come up with the ideas on this video today. We are going to we're going to speak to an expert and see what their ideas are on how we can obviously hit these net new additional dwellings. But let's just take a look at a few things high level that we've already touched on in this video that can help the situation that we currently find ourselves in, and help the government hit the numbers that they say that we need to hit in order to correct the housing crisis. So funding to help to buy schemes will obviously help to boost demand and supply of new homes from the private sector. And just remembering, we are relying at this very moment in time on the private sector, accounting for 81%, remember. Local authorities allowed or are incentivised, obviously by the government, to build council homes to meet the need of houses for their population. So it becomes very specific. We're not just talking generically 300 new homes across Britain. They're very much targeted to the local demand and local need. Government developing its own land opposed to selling it to developers. So there's a big one there. Town planning, this isn't a new one for anyone, and I'm sure this will be a hot topic in the next video. So for those who aren't aware, there's obviously the transitional arrangements currently in place from the current government to hit their targets, but there's been a bit of a backlash, maybe that's the right word, in terms of how realistic these transitional arrangements are and some of the challenges that they throw up. So it'll be good to talk about that in the next video. And incentivising and supporting SME house builders and contractors. And we do know, obviously, the government have touched on that in the recent budget too. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found value in the video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we really look forward to you. And lastly, as I said, we're reaching out to anybody working in the housing sector as a developer or as a housing contractor that feels they've got some really good ideas or can contribute to how we can build Britain, or get Britain building again, or hitting this boom. Please do get in contact, and we really look forward to hearing from you.